We do encourage swearing. If you want to, I'm gonna start.
Fuck.
Well done.
Welcome to Bitch Talk. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm co-host Ange, aka Captain Party.
And for more than 11 years, the show has celebrated underrepresented voices in pop culture and beyond.
But not in the snore kind of way, which is why our listeners and followers have graciously voted us Best of the Bay, Best Podcast on 48 Hills for 3 years in a row. Three-peat, bitches.
If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram and check out our website, Bitch Talk Podcast, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're begging you to judge us. When does that ever happen? Oh, you're not going to say anything?
Oh, what'd I say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, on with the show. Clink.
Hello, Bitch Talkers. We are at Slamdance 2025, and we've got 2 horror thriller films that we really enjoyed. Very different, but very enjoyable. We have In the Mouth and Portal to Hell. Enjoy. Hey, Bitch Talkers. We are at Slamdance 2025. We are talking about the film Portal to Hell. Loved it, by the way. And we have 2 folks from the film. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Woody.
Hi, I'm Woody. I wrote, directed, and shot the film.
Hi there. I'm Trey Holland. I starred in the film as Dunn. Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. If we can go with Woody, can you tell our audience what Portal to Hell is?
Yeah, Portal to Hell is a 90-minute horror comedy. It's about a debt collector who finds a portal to hell in a dryer at his local laundromat and is propositioned into feeding it souls to save his neighbor's life.
Okay, so Woody, I had a feeling that maybe you at some point had to go to a laundromat and sit there for hours and stare. Is that how this story came about?
No, I've scouted pretty much every laundromat in Los Angeles until we found our laundromat in Northridge. But yeah, no, definitely I've spent a good amount of time in laundromats for sure.
I'm just curious to see how you came up with this and how many drugs were involved, perhaps.
Drugs. No, I'm a huge fan of horror, and we kind of wrote it around what we had in kind of the Robert Rodriguez school, because we didn't have a big budget of I always just love the look of laundromats. I don't know why. And then I knew I had Trey as an actor, Ryan Falze being in the film is because we know him and have been friends for quite a while. So we kind of wrote it around this is the most we can do with what we have, and put in lights in a dryer at a laundromat, kind of the easiest way to convey. And then the film itself, I'm just such a huge fan of horror, and how much better directors than me have used horror to kind of say something profound or about the human condition, I guess. Yeah.
I love the deadpan. I love the way you acted in all of this, the horror, the comedy, and delivered the lines. But I do want to talk about the casting, because you are the lead, but you also get to be in scenes with Keith David, legendary, and Richard Kind, legendary, who's also been on Bitch Talk. And we love Richard. So can you...
alum, then.
Yes, an alum. Yes,
exactly. Bitch Talk. We gave him the Bitch Talk bump.
Yeah,
he's
doing
welcome
great now.
Richard.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
He's doing
Thanks.
great.
Yeah, we'll see him on Saturday night. I'm really looking forward to it. He's an absolute pleasure, as well as Keith. They were, for me, just dream experience, really, right? As you can imagine, it was incredible to do that. And like you said, as far as casting goes, Keith really influenced the tone of this film quite a bit, because we shot some stuff early on in the apartment, like what he's talking about. We shot around what we had, and we saw these scenes in a way that could have been very different. We shot a teaser to attract other talent, and then that's why Keith came on board because of that. And then during the shooting of Keith's scenes, it changed completely from what we had shot before. It became this, he grounded it in a way and really challenged me and Woody to like, get on his page with it. And it made it such a better story, even though it's fantastic already. But like, I owe a lot of credit to him and how he played those scenes and how he made me act in those scenes. And it made it so much better. We were able to go, because we always planned to kind of like, shoot it in blocks and then reshoot what, we wanted to based on how it was going. And we did. We went back and reshot that, toned down a bit. And it, like you said, legends, obviously, that, we're working with. And we would be kind of stupid as shit. Sorry, I'm trying to throw I forgot to cuss a bunch. My bad.
Yeah. It's not required, but if you want to,
yeah. No, I'm gonna try to get fuck.
Yeah.
I think Dunn cusses quite a bit actually. But no, it would be very stupid of us not to register that we had this in front of us and react accordingly, if that makes sense. So, and then as well, like Richard was amazing. He was one of the last things we shot. Only seen in New York, actually. The rest of the movies shot in LA. We went to Rich to be able to shoot him there, and he was an absolute just awesome individual. I mean, you guys know he's just such a lovely person, and it translates onto screen so easily for him. Like he's just so fun to be around and so fun to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the balancing of the tone of the film for both of you as director and as actor, because like you said, there's horror, there's comedy, there's some sentimental scenes, there's gore, but it's just a fun ride, the whole film, and you're kind of taken through a whole bunch of different emotions. So can you talk about, as director, creating these different tones but having them mesh, and then as an actor?
Yeah, like so it definitely like was hard, and we like kind of like had to keep going back and reshooting, and mostly like because we like kind of like through the experience, like when you work with Keith, you get better. Like you learn from him and you get better. And like same with Richard, of like there's just so many scenes where like I think we can do this better, and like we're shooting in my apartment, so like why not just do it? Why not use less edits and like kind of make sure this tone, like we're not going for the laugh, we're kind of going for like the sadness and like the pain of the character, and that should hopefully be funnier. And like it definitely, like we shot over the course of like 2 years, which is, I'm sure, like really hard for Trey to sometimes, like you're like, where what did we shot this scene a year ago and now we're shooting the very next scene. So like we kind of just kept going back to the edit and kind of like making sure we knew where we were at and what we needed.
Oh, I was just gonna, yeah, totally on that same note. I mean, like I said earlier, the story is there. Woody's like fantastic writer, and so like it's like, but it's also there, and we found that it's there in many different ways, and we learned that, like as he's saying, as we went, and we were able to find this. And I always kind of say this too. It's like, um, some of the teaser stuff that we had shot, I was kind of overplaying it a bit. And then once we kind of grounded it, it was really the characters don't know that they're in this crazy world. You know what I mean? They're just living. So it's like once we found that, and then these crazy things were happening around them, and then you just like, yeah, there's a portal to hell. Yeah. Everybody knows that that's like, it just becomes an ethos of the world, and it grounds everything else. So I think that we were able to find this tone, and I'm really happy that you guys enjoyed it, and that if it's kind of coming across, kind of us redoing stuff to kind of make it all merry and match. So
Yeah, I mean, at the portal to hell, that just right now, if we both live in San Francisco, there's tons of laundromats, and I'm like, if I walk by and they're like, "Yep, there's a portal to hell," and I'm like, "Yeah,
exactly.
that's on brand for the time that we're living in." So yeah, it's relatable. I do want to talk about some of the themes in the script as well, because yes, this is a horror film. Yes, it's fucking funny, but we are talking about how damaging and damaged the healthcare system is. Can you talk about adding that bit into the script?
Yeah, of course. Like, I guess, like per your point, like the portal to hell is there, and like like every day we kind of like deal with just low grade evil, like there's wealth inequality, like there's the healthcare, like people don't have healthcare and yet billionaires exist, and like there's no difference between that and like a physical portal to hell, and yet we all just kind of like soldier on and tolerate it because that's the way it is. And like Dunn's character is kind of odd in being like, well, there's a portal to hell, shouldn't we look into this? And like in our everyday life, it's like we know our healthcare is broken, and like we know there's like great like injustice, and like we have everything we need to fix it, but we just don't. And it's kind of like that's why the characters kind of just accept that there's a portal to hell and carry on with their own problems.
That's well said. I'm not going to add to that. That was perfect. That's like so just dead on. I mean, exactly what he said. It's just like it adds to that, and I'm glad that we were able to deliver it in such a way where it is funny, but at the same time, you think back on it, it's like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? Like this is about. I feel like, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people can relate to that, you know, to that struggle of, you know, not being able to pay the bills. And Dion, Keith's wife, one of my favorite scenes. Like that's Dion Lee is acting in that scene on the other side of the phone call, and that's who I call about, you know, that debt. And it's just like it kind of guts me every time I hear that, because it's just real. You know, we've all been there on the other side of that line, and like, how are we going to get to the next pit? You know, and it's just like, yeah, I'm glad that that's a great question about that. It really is. I'm glad you found it impactful, because we definitely were thinking about it as we were going. So
it hits home.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it took me by surprise. Like I was saying, like, oh shit, now my heart is feeling things. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah.
You snuck that in there on me. Sorry to follow that up with another serious question, but where are those hamburgers from? Because I have to know. I'm just like, when you're eating those burgers, and I'm like, shit, now I need a burger. And also, what's your favorite burger in LA? If they are one and the same or not.
Oh god, so
definitely not. No, sorry to throw shade on that burger play. Like, we won't say where it is or whatever, I guess.
We shot at a donut shop, but we ended up getting burgers. I forget where it was. Like,
okay.
Romina is like a vegan, so we had to get like vegan burgers. I forget exactly. My favorite like burger shop. We actually like we moved in, and there was this place called Pablito's right up the street, and these incredible smash burgers. But they opened up like a Raising Cane's, and they moved. And like we only had like 1 month, and like thing, because we were probably gonna gain quite a like, we were getting smash burgers every night, but they're so good.
Smash burgers are the new, I'm obsessed too.
Yeah, we got a bunch. Definitely got sick on the, not terrible, but it was just like, how many did we get when we got that bag of burgers?
We like literally
we got a bunch, yeah. And we were like, also too, at that point, I don't think we had the donut shop, so we were like, I wonder if they'll let us. We had the camera with us, so we were like, should we ask if they want it? And then like the vibe was just not very good at the drive-through, so we were like, just the burgers, please. We're not gonna, my favorite burger, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna be simple. In-N-Out. I'm a big In-N-Out fan. I mean, it's like
same. Animal Style. Oh, speaking of Animal Style, who's this?
Oh yeah. Oh, this is my co-star.
Yeah, your co-star at the end. Yeah. Before I wrap, and thank you for bringing on another co-star before I wrap.
Of course,
No, of course.
No,
but
so cute.
There is another co-star behind you. I can't not talk about Mass.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's Chip.
Can you talk about Chip back there?
Yeah, so like this. So I actually sculpted the mask myself, because like we got quoted like really like $10,000 plus, and like we just couldn't do that. So like I watched like a season of Face Off and gave it a college try, and like the mask making company was like super nice. They like referred me to like a freelance like mold maker. So like you basically like carve it out of clay, and then they'll make the mold, and like it ended up costing like $1,000 for him to mold it. So like as much as possible, we tried to do like practical effects, just because we're a horror film and those hold up better over time anyway. But yeah, that's Chip. It's like my one keepsake from the film.
We love this film. It's called Portal to Hell. It's at Slamdance 2025. Thanks so much for your time, Woody and Trey. Have a great Slamdance, you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you. We're looking forward to it. We're so happy to be there. Thank you for having us. This was great.
Hey, Bitch Talk. We are at Slamdance 2025. We're talking about the film In the Mouth, which we have a lot of feelings about, I'm sure, and we'll get through them with our guests. I am going to have them introduce themselves since we have two here, and I'm going to start with Paul.
I'm Paul Michael. I play Larry in the film.
I'm Colin Burgess, and I play Merle.
Yes. And I think I'll go with Colin on this one. Can you introduce the film to our audience, please?
This is a movie about a guy, and I play that guy, who is afraid to leave his house because there's a giant version of himself outside in the lawn, kind of like buried in the lawn. And he's kind of afraid that I think that this giant version of himself is going to eat him or do something to him. It's just freaky. So he can't leave the house, can't make any money, so he decides to get a roommate played by
Moi, who I don't want to give too much away, but he's got a bit of a history himself and shows up at the door. Let's just say that there wouldn't be ideal roommates under normal circumstances, and these are not normal circumstances.
Okay, I'm glad that we're interviewing the actors for this film because it's not really dialogue heavy. There's a lot of sounds, there's a lot of pacing and timing that happens in this film. So I'm curious the pacing and the timing for, the thriller aspect, but also for the awkwardness aspect and comedic in some cases.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear both of your reactions to first reading the script, because it's not a typical script, obviously, and not a typical story.
No. Well, that's what I liked about it, because it's weird. I mean, Corey just described it to me first before I even got the script, and I was just kind of in for it. And then the Larry aspect that character Paul plays, I think I didn't know about until I read the script, and then that was like, I was like, oh, this is great. This is this other layer on top of this whole thing. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I don't like dialogue, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's less work. That's
yeah, you got to memorize.
Well, I don't know. You got a lot of it is in the reaction and in the relationships too. So, and Colin and I have a similar history with Corey on this, but I had been meant to do one film that got killed by COVID. I started another film that fell apart, and I got in touch with Corey about 3 weeks after that film and said, we really got to do something. And he came back to me and said, I got this project, and sent me this script, and I just fell in love with it right away. I think more, I don't know if it was descriptors, but certainly the mood of it, the tone of it, the kind of weird, quirky darkness and humor was just wonderful. And I thought, I got to do this, so I signed up right away.
And I think the other thing, I mean, I've at this point done a handful of micro budget movies, and I would say most, or pretty much all the movies I've done, and a lot of the micro budgets I see, like practically speaking, have to be sort of grounded in reality due to budget a lot of the times. And this, I read it and I was like, oh, this is like a whole production design. And it was just like a bigger, he had like the shots were just like way more
storyboards,
stylized, and needed more like lighting. And even though we didn't have a lighting person, that was the DP that did all that also.
I wanted to ask, because you're talking about that part of this film, but so was it Corey's idea to always film in black and white, and how did the both of you feel about the black and white aspect of the film?
I know the answer to this because I've done this with Corey a few times. He claims he doesn't know when the black and white aspect comes in, but I reminded him that a big reference point for his movie was this movie from the 60s called The Cremator. And it's just a really bizarre 60s kind of experimental like film. It's kind of dark, but it's in black and white, like high contrast, black and white. And then when he talked to me, it was like a lot of like film noir too, like The Third Man, Brian De Palma. So there's, and Psycho, I feel like is like a big, some like all these have elements of, you know, black and white and like that type of stylized noir.
I didn't know until I got on the set for day one that it was in black and white, but I did pick up on the sort of neo-noir aspects of it right away when I read it. And so it just seemed flawless to me when he said that. I thought, yeah, you know, that flies. I love it. So
yeah.
I also have to ask about each of your separate character quirks, because one, we have your uniforms, which is, it was just hilarious. I loved it. It was like giving me Steve Zissou or something. I was just like, yes, they were I love that. So the picking of your uniforms, and then some of your weird quirks, like one that I really loved was, I have to ask if either of you have ever used a tennis racket as a cauldron, because that feels like a lived experience. That feels like someone was like, how about if he does this, you know?
The tennis racket strainer was always planned. Like Corey had that, I think, written in the script, or he had planned to do that. And weirdly, the night before we shot that scene, or maybe the night after before I went to bed, I rewatched The Apartment with Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. And in the movie, he strained spaghetti with a tennis racket. And I was like, oh, Corey must have stole it from this. That's great. And I mentioned it to him the next day, and he was like, what?
Up until then, we thought it was original. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then did you pick your uniforms, or was that in the script too? Like you were always going to be wearing the same things?
I think it was probably written in that I was in the same, because my characters, I mean, when Corey talked to me, it was like kind of like a cartoon character. So I know that I was probably always going to be in like pajamas the entire time. But the costume was designed by Jesse Murrow, who also produced and did production design.
I actually kept mine.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but when Jesse told me about it, it made perfect sense, because the clothes that Larry's wearing when he comes to the door are stolen, and so he doesn't want to be seen in those. And so he picks out from Merle's wide selection of pajamas. But so that, yeah, I was on board with it. I loved them. They were hilarious.
I also think it. I realized later it's kind of a funny, like, Larry is once again trapped inside in a uniform.
Meta, very meta.
Yeah.
He's in prison again.
I wanted to ask about Merle's character. Was Merle, is he clueless, or he just doesn't care? And was that something that you talked to Corey about, like the way that you're going to act out Merle?
He's kind of childlike. I think sort of the backstory for him in my head was, first and foremost, this is a guy that doesn't ever leave the house. He doesn't interact with people hardly ever. And that sort of creates, I think, he's like constantly in his own head. And I think he's missed a lot of things. He misses a lot of cues. He misses doesn't know what's going on a lot of the time. And I think he's been like that for a really long time. So he is just very naive to things, I think, because he isn't out in the world.
Yeah, I enjoy the back and forth between the two of you, because it's like, you know, we often talk to directors and actors, and it's like, okay, how did you create the bond between the two of you so it feels like you're mother and daughter? But with you, it's like you're bonding outside of the film, but on screen, it's just so awkward, and there's just like you're in two different worlds. So how do you maintain that awkwardness and like disconnect?
Comes naturally to me.
I was gonna say, you really dislike each other. I could tell.
Yeah.
Well, I found like we didn't actually meet until day one on the set, just before the first take, and it was comfortable pretty much right away. in our own characters and how they were going to relate. It did grow certainly through the shoot, but I think Larry's just constantly going, "What the." You know, it's like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
so he kind of just goes on with his own thing and works around it until he can't.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to ask about the other character in the film besides the head, because I don't want to give too much away. The house. Can you talk about either one of you?
Man.
I can talk with Paul can start, but can you talk about the location of the house and the house itself?
Well, funnily enough, I had in the previous film, I had stayed there, and it's definitely a house with its own personality. It had a ton of kitsch, a ton of creepiness, and not a little bit of humor. So I was interested because Colin actually stayed there, and I had stayed there, and so I was interested in what he would feel. But I knew it would add a ton of atmosphere just ahead of time before I ever got there. So you take over, Colin.
Yeah, I'm just remembering too now. I didn't meet Corey in person until the day before we started shooting this movie. We had connected online maybe, I think it was like 3 or 4 years previously, and then it was like years of kind of failed attempts to work together. And then this movie came up very last minute when the movie Paul was involved with fell through. Corey kind of scrambled and was like, well, I have this other movie I've been wanting to do forever. And I think he put it together within like, less than a month.
Yeah.
Mainly because he found this house in this orchard that was like, yeah, you can use this whole thing. So I flew, he flew me to Rhode Island, and then he was like doing something. He's like, yeah, just, this is the address. Just go let yourself in the house. That's where you'll be staying. And I showed up on a completely empty apple orchard. No one's there at all. And then this house is in the, like, behind it, and no one is there at all. And I just let myself into, he gave me the garage code, and I just let myself into a completely empty house that feels like someone just left 25 years ago. It was definitely in my room. I had the choice of sleeping in a room that he's like, we're going to be shooting in this bedroom, so every morning you're going to have to clean up all your stuff and get it out so we can dress it. Or you can sleep in the doll room.
Oh, no.
With
Never.
like 80 dolls that are all have uncannily realistic eyes.
It was horrifying.
Yeah, it lends itself to the movie.
I chose the doll room. And by
Of
the
course.
end, honestly, I kind of like the dolls.
Oh.
Kind of comforting.
I never got to that point. They creeped me out entirely.
We also found in the doll room, so there's cabinets.
Oh, this is cool.
Oh, yeah. There's cabinets of dolls everywhere. And I would like look through them because I'm like, it was also funny to me. They're really old dolls and they all look kind of funny. And we were looking through, and behind one of the dolls was a wad of cash this thick that had to have been like
somebody's stash.
Yeah. What?
And we had to contact the people that own the house and be like, hey, we found a huge wad of cash. And they're like, oh, thanks.
No explanation.
It was there.
Oh, so you could have just taken it. That's what you're saying.
Wow.
But you guys are really...
That's wrong. We wouldn't have done that.
It is totally wrong, but I'm just saying you could have.
This is where we're moral.
Yeah.
Cast and crew.
I want a documentary on the owners of this house now.
Yeah.
I need
They were
to know
incredible.
more.
They were too trusting of us.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Well, this film I still have a lot of questions, but that's okay. I think that's what this film is about. The title is In the Mouth. It's screening at Slamdance 2025, And we've been talking to the stars, Paul Michael and Colin Burgess. Thank you so much for being on Bitch Talk. And good luck at Slamdance. I can't wait to hear the feedback.
We too.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. You can find more information about this episode in our show notes.
If you're missing us, you can visit us at bitchtalkpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter and buy us a cup of coffee.
Did you know we're also on the radio? You can find us at bff.fm.
And lastly, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All the cool bitches are doing it.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcast.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.